The air in my Vermont kitchen still carried the faint, lingering scent of white pies and almond cake, a sweet reminder of the wedding festivities that had unfolded just 2 days prior. The soft morning light filtered through the delicate lace curtains, casting gentle patterns across the polished oak table, a surface that had borne witness to countless family moments, joyful toasts, quiet tears, and generations of whispered secrets. Across from me sat my daughter, Isabel, her cheeks flushed with that ethereal glow weddings often bestowed, a mix of magic and sheer exhaustion. She had walked barefoot down a garden aisle beneath strings of glowing paper lanterns, her voice trembling as she uttered "I do" to a man I scarcely knew, Landon Ashcraft. He sat beside her now, exuding a quiet arrogance that had shadowed his every smile since the rehearsal dinner. Dressed in a crisp linen blazer, one arm draped lazily behind her chair, he appeared utterly at home, as if he had always belonged in this space that Thomas and I had built over decades. His gaze flicked toward me, a blend of feigned affection and sharp assessment. Then, with a casual nonchalance, he slid a thick manila envelope across the table. It came to a halt just shy of my teacup, the paper whispering against the wood. "Just something we thought might make things easier," he said smoothly, his voice laced with the kind of polished charm that set my teeth on edge. "You know, alignment, future planning." He delivered it like a benevolent favor, as if I should be grateful. Isabel smiled at me, her eyes wide with that eager-to-please expression she'd worn since childhood. "It's just a formality, Mom. Landon's brilliant with finances. We're setting up a family trust for when we have kids. You understand, right?" Her tone was light, brimming with hope and good intentions, but my heart sank like a stone plummeting into still water. I hadn't even glanced inside the envelope, yet I sensed its weight, not just in the paper, but in its insidious purpose. Typed in an efficient, cold sans-serif font on the front was my full legal name, Fiona Lawson. No Mom, no warmth, just stark formality. Landon stood, reaching for Isabel's hand with a proprietary grasp. "We're flying to Corsica in the morning," he announced with a grin that didn't quite reach his eyes. "But this will just save time later." I nodded, my face a mask of expressionless calm. I didn't open the envelope. Not yet. I waited until the sound of their car faded down the gravel drive, lined with ancient sugar maples, and the dust settled into an eerie silence. Only then did I pick it up. My hands trembled, not from fear, but from a simmering fury, the kind that ignites when someone mistakes you for easy prey. A woman alone, aging gracefully, they assumed I had no claws left. But oh, they were sharp, honed by years of navigating treacherous waters, both literal and metaphorical. I settled into my reading chair by the window, the envelope open on my lap. The legal jargon sprawled across the pages like a spider's web, each clause meticulously calculated, each signature line a potential noose. It wasn't a mere suggestion, it was a blueprint for control. The document demanded that I consent to allocating a substantial portion of my personal and residual assets into a new Ashcraft family trust, managed solely by Landon. No mention of my involvement, no co-signing authority, no residual rights. He didn't know what he was truly reaching for, and that ignorance made him all the more dangerous. They all thought I was merely comfortable, a retired marine biologist who had spent her twilight professional years consulting for a coastal conservation NGO. A widow living quietly on a modest pension, this lakeside house, and the fading memories of my late husband, Thomas. But no one knew the full truth about Thomas, about the legacy he had left behind. It had been 20 years since he invested in that small biotech company in Geneva, an early-stage firm pioneering enzyme therapies for rare genetic diseases. He never breathed a word to anyone, not even me, until the week before his death. I remembered that day vividly. We were on the back porch, the sun dipping behind the towering pine trees, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. His voice was faint but resolute. "If anything ever happens to me, Fiona," he said, his hand cold in mine, "you'll find a key in the cigar box." Safety Deposit Box 314 in Zurich. Don't ask questions. Just follow the steps. I did exactly that. The key led to a blind trust under a shell company named Harborstone Dynamics AG. No traceable connection to me on paper, just a signature code and a biometric scan. Inside, $48 million. I had transferred it to a layered network of holding accounts disguised under a renewable energy grant program I had consulted on years earlier. It was invisible, impeccably clean, utterly untouchable. Thank God for that foresight, because now this charming man with his perfect teeth and designer watch believed he could swindle a vulnerable widow out of her meager assets. But reading his contract, I recognized the predatory pattern immediately. Control the money, isolate the family, foster dependence, then consolidate power. He was banking on my silence, my unwavering love for Isabel, my supposed ignorance. Yet I had no intention of refusing outright. That would be too straightforward, too easy for him to circumvent. No, I would lay a trap so subtle, so enticing, that he'd saunter into it with a smile on his face. The bait, a fabricated financial disclosure. A believable but underwhelming snapshot of my estate, designed to whet his appetite just enough to fuel his greed, not his caution. And when he lunged for it, I'd be ready to strike. The next morning, as the lake mist began to lift and sunlight danced on the porch steps, a sharp knock echoed through the house. It wasn't a polite tap, it was a lawyer's knock, authoritative, insistent. I opened the door to a man in a slate-gray suit, clutching a leather briefcase and an envelope eerily similar to the one Landon had delivered. His posture was crisp, his smile a weapon honed in boardrooms and courtrooms. "Good morning," he said, stepping forward without awaiting an invitation. "Mrs. Lawson, I'm Cole Weaver, legal representative for Mr. and Mrs. Landon Ashcraftoft. I'm here regarding an urgent financial matter." I didn't budge. "My daughter's name is Isabel Lawson," I replied evenly. "She kept her name." He hesitated for a fraction of a second, just long enough to reveal a crack in his facade, before recovering. "Of course. My apologies. May I come in?" Everything in me screamed to slam the door, but I stepped aside. I needed to gauge the full scope of their scheme. He made himself at home at the dining-room table, placing his briefcase on the very spot where I'd once helped Isabel with science projects and blown out birthday candles. "This document," he said, sliding it toward me, "is an emergency addendum to the family trust proposal. It's designed to fast-track asset structuring for both parties." I didn't touch it. He flipped to a page near the back. Here's where it gets particularly relevant. Section 12.3, Parental Estate Disclosures and Pre-Inheritance Holdings. He tapped the line with a manicured finger. "This clause simply asks you to declare your current assets so we can ensure the trust reflects an accurate valuation." I leaned over and spotted her signature, Isabel's fresh ink, her familiar looping script. She had signed it, likely without reading a single word. My chest tightened like a vice. He smiled, sensing what he thought was victory. "They're young," he said lightly, "and they trust each other." "Wrong answer," I murmured quietly, folding the paper shut. "Tell Landon I'll respond when I choose. I don't sign anything without my own legal counsel." A flicker crossed his face, disappointment, perhaps irritation. "Understood. May I ask when they can expect?" "You may not," I interrupted, already rising. I opened the front door wide. "This meeting is over." He packed up deliberately slowly, unaccustomed to dismissal. When the door clicked shut, I stood in the kitchen silence and exhaled sharply through my teeth. This wasn't mere charm anymore. It was calculated strategy. It was time to bring in my best ally. I picked up the phone and dialed Victor Green, Thomas's oldest friend, the man who had helped me conceal the fortune in the first place. The one person who knew the entire truth. "Victor," I said as soon as he answered, They've started the game. Victor didn't bother with pleasantries. After years of burying assets, identities, and intentions, he grasped urgency instinctively. "They want to draw you in legally," he replied after I briefed him. "You sure you want to play?" "I don't want to win," I said flatly. "I want him to lose spectacularly." There was a pause, then his voice softened. "You're protecting Isabel." "I'm protecting what Thomas left me," I countered. "And yes, that includes our daughter." Victor understood. He always had. We worked swiftly over the next 48 hours, a whirlwind of encrypted calls, drafted documents, and meticulous planning. We constructed a false financial snapshot, $280,000 in modest post-retirement funds, some fabricated outstanding medical bills from Thomas's final treatments, a recently matured annuity. All details drawn from real accounts, blended seamlessly with believable fiction. The document looked authentic, stamped, notarized, infused with a quiet, tragic undertone. It painted the picture of a widow scraping by, clinging to dignity amid shrinking savings. Then came the digital breadcrumbs. Victor engineered a shallow banking trail, one visible account under my name, with access records dating back a decade. It was just traceable enough for someone like Landon to uncover if he fancied himself clever. Once complete, I placed the file on my home office desk, unlocked, slightly askew, practically inviting discovery. Then I waited. 4 days dragged by in tense silence. Then one morning, my bank called. "Mrs. Lawson," the voice said cautiously, "we've detected suspicious activity involving a dormant grant-related account. Someone attempted access through an outdated user portal using your old credentials." My heart didn't race. It sank with grim confirmation. "That account has been closed for years," I replied calmly. "Do you have an IP address?" "We do. It traces to a login attempt from a resort in Corsica. The credentials were entered from a device registered to someone named Isabel." I closed my eyes, the pieces falling into place. He was using her tablet, infiltrating her passwords, her digital life, her future, and she remained oblivious. I sat alone in the kitchen as the late sun cast elongated shadows across the table. One hand gripped my teacup, the other curled into a trembling fist. This had escalated beyond manipulation. It was outright theft, calculated, methodical, silent. But he'd erred gravely, underestimating the woman he viewed as fading into irrelevance. The next morning, I brewed chamomile tea and dialed Isabel's number. My voice was warm, steady, almost saccharine. "Hi, darling. How's Corsica?" She sounded drowsy, content. "Gorgeous. We just got back from the cliffs." "Why?" I allowed a pause to linger. "Tell Landon I've had a chance to think about the paperwork. He's right, it's best to get ahead of things. I'd like to go over everything with you over lunch." "My treat." A beat of silence, then her voice brightened. "Really, Mom? That's wonderful. I knew you'd understand." She was relieved, perhaps even proud of bridging the gap. I ended the call and stared into my cooling tea, steeling myself. The next afternoon, we met at a secluded garden café in Montpelier, chosen for its privacy and ambient white noise. The tinkling wind chimes and gurgling fountains would mask any rising tensions. They arrived punctually, Landon in a cream suit, Isabel in a flowing sundress, her hair loosely pulled back reminiscent of her teenage years. She appeared nervous. He did not. We exchanged small talk about travel, the wedding, the wine list. Isabel ordered lavender lemonade, Landon, a gin martini, confidence distilled. Then, feigning casualness, he retrieved the manila envelope from his satchel. "I brought the paperwork just in case," he said with a disarming smile. I nodded, accepting it, then drew a thinner file from my bag. "I brought something too," I said, placing it gently on the table. "It's a full disclosure of my financial situation." He blinked but recovered swiftly. I slid the decoy document toward him. It's all there. After medical costs, property tax adjustments, and finalizing Thomas's estate, there's not much left. Just around $280,000, most in a structured annuity. He scanned it, his expression inscrutable, but the shift was palpable. His jaw tightened, his smile faltered. Isabel leaned in. "Wait, Mom. That's it." I offered a soft, apologetic smile. "Your father had more liabilities than I ever told you. I didn't want to burden you." Landon chuckled politely and excused himself to the restroom, leaving his drink untouched. Once gone, Isabel turned to me. "Mom, did you really threaten him?" "No, sweetheart. I simply said I wouldn't sign without a lawyer." "Maybe that scared him." She fell silent, swirling her straw in slow circles, lost in thought. I realized then, he hadn't relinquished, he was merely regrouping. 2 nights later, after locking the back door and extinguishing the porch light, my phone rang. It was my private banker. "Fiona, there's been an attempted withdrawal, full amount, from one of your legacy retirement accounts. The one ending in 7093. I froze. That account was inactive, a dormant anchor for the decoy. "I know," she continued, "but someone tried to move the entire balance via your old digital profile." My voice dropped. "Device signature?" "An iPad Air registered to Isabel Lawson. IP traces to a Corsica resort." It was undeniable. He'd infiltrated through her, exploiting her trust and tech. I stared out at the moonlit lake, my reflection lost in the darkness. Then I texted Isabel, "Come to the house alone. I made the lemon cake you love." She arrived the next afternoon, hair damp from the drive, eyes weary. She sat at the kitchen table, posture guarded. "I need to talk to you," I began gently. "Last night, someone tried to drain my retirement account." "What?" Her voice cracked. "What are you talking about?" I slid a printout across. "Using your tablet from your hotel while you slept." Her face paled. "No, he wouldn't." I waited as denial crumbled. "He said you were paranoid, spying, threatening to ruin us." I reached out. "Isabel, he found what I wanted him to, a decoy. And he tried to take it all." Tears welled, angry and confused. "You set him up. You baited him." "I protected you," I said tightly, "to see what he'd do unchecked." She stood abruptly, grabbing her purse. "This is insane. You don't trust anyone. You're trying to break us apart." "No," I whispered. "I'm stopping someone from breaking you." "He loves me," she murmured, on the brink of sobs. "Then ask him why he was on your tablet at 2:14 a.m., accessing financial databases under your name." She shook her head, lips trembling. I can't do this." And she fled, leaving lemon scent and echoing fears. The house fell silent, save the ticking brass clock. I sat with untouched cake, heart threaded together precariously. At 11:46 p.m., Victor called. "I've got it." IP traces confirm Landon initiated the attempt via Isabel's device. Cached history shows research on overriding multi-factor auth for high-value trusts. I closed my eyes. "He's methodical. Not patient anymore," Victor said grimly. "Desperate. Do you have the wedding footage?" I retrieved the thumb drive from the cedar box, clips from Isabel's best friend. "I do." "Send it all." Arrogance slips when unobserved. That night, I pored over 5 hours of shaky footage. Toasts, dances, Isabel's joyous laugh. Then, in a side-angle clip amid sparklers, Landon with groomsmen. One raised a glass. "So what now, Ashcraft-Toft? You finally married rich." Landon smirked. "Not yet." Give me a month, you'll see. Not jest. Confession. Cocky. Cold. I copied the clip to a drive, sealed it in an envelope, and dropped it in Isabel's mailbox. No note, just truth. 2 days later, on a gray afternoon, she returned, exhausted, eyes red-rimmed. "I watched the video," she rasped. Asked him. He said joke. But I checked his history, months of digging, even Zurich login screenshots. She cried. "I'm so sorry. Didn't want to believe." I held her. Her phone buzzed. She paled. Him. Says he's lawyering up. If I leave, he'll sue for fraud. I met her eyes, steel-voiced. Then we show him who he's dealing with. Victor prepared the dossier. Forensics, logs, timestamps, device prints, transcribed video. We met at a Burlington law office, glass room overlooking the lake. Landon arrived late, polished but faltering upon seeing Victor. "Who's this?" "Insurance." "Observer," I said smoothly. Victor slid the folder. Courtesy copy. Landon's color drained. History, logs, video. Hands trembled. "No crime here," he snapped, pitch high. "Not yet," Victor replied. "But enough for investigations. Identity misuse, coercion, intrusion." Landon turned to Isabel, betrayed. "You told them." "No," she said steadily. "You did. What do you want?" "Full annulment," I said, unblinking. "Effective immediately. Walk away with nothing. No battle, no press." "Or," he sneered. Victor produced another folder. "This goes to Vermont AG and a reporter on suspicious trust drainings." Isabel slid a pen. "Sign." He did, fleeing without a glance. Silence descended like snow. "It's over," Isabel said, tears brimming. "No," I whispered, embracing her. "It's safe." That evening, we cooked in the kitchen. As pasta boiled and wine breathed, she asked, "True?" "The money." I nodded. 48 million, hidden years. "Why not tell me?" "To protect you from what money does to the entitled." She squeezed my hand. "No more secrets." We lingered post-dinner, candles flickering. Thomas's true inheritance wasn't ledger numbers, it was wisdom. Wait, act, love fiercely enough for truth to dawn. A fortune shared freely with the woman Isabel was becoming.